I have always had a peculiar affinity to animals, especially to that of a cat, innocent and quiet. For neither animalistic brutality nor transcendent sin will flicker across their unknowing eyes. This story, no matter how extraordinary, is true. For I am not mad. Never have I performed any action without sanity deceitfully smiling in the corners of my mind. As a boy, I grew up feeling great comfort when in the presence of pets and animals. My many classmates taunted me of my curious nature, but that never bothered me. Yes, it was indeed odd to harvest utter interconnectivity within beings I found impossible to verbally communicate with. But I felt internal peace. I had found throughout my childhood that pets were more trustworthy than any human, and when the time came about, I fortunately found my soulmate. The only characteristic we had in common was our deep passion of pets. Immediately, we'd adopted a few. In my eyes, they were pristine until a patron of the Plutonian shore had scorched my soul. A tabby cat. We had named this cat Pluto. Pluto was the apple of my eye, and to my discomfort his presence grew from angelic to unholy. I did not know what changed, but his shadow, yes, his shadow, had entangled my transience, throwing me in and out of my consciousness, my logical state. I knew I had to act before it took complete control over my own mortality. I resorted to drinking, as many would. Each day the cat would bring to light unspeakable horrors of my mind. Despair would come bitter to my tongue. Weeks later, when I had come home after a long day with a bottle of alcohol in one hand, I gazed at the gently sleeping cat. Irrationality seized me. In a sudden rage, I performed many unspeakable acts. The tabby cat had suffered a brutal series of assault and unknown ferocity. The cat lay writhing on the ground before my eyes. The merciless beating continued on, maiming the cat's entire body over and over again. I couldn't believe what had just unfolded before my very eyes. This inhuman rage had completely possessed my body, and the cat was suffering for it. My wife watched, and instead of fear, I sensed some shadow in her soul. And as if a thirst for destruction had dwelt in her diabolical mind, my deed was overwhelming and could not be forgiven. I had to carry out the action, for after mortal life, I do not deserve salvation in any form. I hung Pluto with tears in my eyes. My wife watched. An odd essence had changed her form, almost metamorphosized, if you will. A spirit sparked in her spectacular eyes. She had suspicious of my sanity. With an impassive face, she drew a kitchen knife and advanced slowly onto me. I yelled and attempted to run, but at that very moment, it seemed as if she had sent a spectrum of riders to detain me, and I stood rooted to the ground. Instantaneously, the house burst into flames. The fires of Hades' pit had saved me from a demon. I leapt out of the house in terror. I began to desperately sprint away from the house, until a shadow loomed ominously across the sky. It was as though day had turned into night, as her spectral form chased me. After a while, I had curiously stumbled upon a tabby cat. It was identical to Pluto, and at that moment, wrath had burst inside me. I began to punish the cat for possessing my life, for it used to be my best companion. But then, I looked behind me, and she was there, thickening the air. I tried to yell for help, but no sound came out of my mouth. The world blackened as a distant person walked away from me, paying no attention to my impending doom. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air. Before I knew it, a bystander came to my aid, and my wife had fled. It was the cat which had screamed. The very being which had invited the dark souls into my life had vanquished them!
Hey there, Delilah, what's it like in New York City? I'm 1,000 miles away, but girl, tonight you look so pretty.